Om Tare Du Tare Du Re Soha. Om Tare Du Tare Du Re Soha. Om Tare Du Tare Du Re Soha. Om Tare Du Tare.
Right. Well, good evening, everyone. So good to see those of you physically here and those of you online. A joy to be with you. As we step into this text, the foundations of Buddhist practice, we're beginning with Buddhist view. And these four seals are really what define a Buddhist view. Last week, we touched into the first seal, which was impermanence. And this week, we're going to get into the second seal. Prior to that, I think it would be very helpful to have a little understanding of the framework of what we mean by samsara or polluted phenomena. I think that's the term they'll use in the text. You know, what is it to be conditioned? What is it to be subject to the laws of karma? What is this experience that we're having? So in Buddhism, the understanding is that this body will die and the consciousness continues, and then at some point, due to the way that we have lived, the seeds that have been cultivated in our karmas, we'll start seeing ourselves differently, and we'll be in a new life. And that can happen in many different ways. But what gives rise to our experience, to the body we have, the world we live in, the way we experience the world we live in, is all driven by karma. And karma that we're talking about in this sense arises from misperception. It arises from misperception. So all of Buddhism is about learning how to accurately experience yourself. That all of this is pretty much a big mistake in a sense. A mistake in the sense that it's born out of misunderstanding. And because of this misunderstanding, we create karma. And then the karma has created, this world we live in and how we experience the world that we live in. And so the reference in the text here will talk about polluted phenomena. And polluted phenomena would mean the phenomena we're experiencing out of misperception. It's polluted because it's created through karma, which came about out of misperception. So when they're talking about polluted phenomena, we're talking in that realm. And this realm that we're experiencing is one in which karma pretty much regulates how things exist in a way and how we experience them, how we experience ourselves as well. So in the understanding of Buddhism, the real core root issue are these what we call three root poisons, three root delusions. Primary is misunderstanding. It's often just called ignorance, but it's misunderstanding. I misperceive myself and I misperceive the experience. So, for example, I really experience myself as pretty independent from you, right? You're over there, I'm over here. We're very independent. You may not even like Brussels sprouts. I don't know why. And it seems so, right? It does seem that way. We're very independent. And then if I eat Brussels sprouts, I happen to like Brussels sprouts. Some people don't like Brussels sprouts. Very different, right? But I will sit here and get some joy from something, and then I'll see that item or person or event gives me joy. And I'll like it. I'll get attached to it. So karma is going to be created in the sense that my joy is in the Brussels sprouts. And I have an attachment for Brussels sprouts, a desire for them. And some people don't like Brussels sprouts. They might develop an aversion to them, and they don't want Brussels sprouts. And so since we're little kids in the world, just crawling around, we start noticing these differences. We start noticing we're different. Mom's over there, my sister's over here. These other beings are over there. This little baby food tastes good. This little baby food doesn't taste good. I like this. I don't like that. And we start having a perception that these events or people in my life or the food or all that are the sources of my joy or my aversion. And I'm going to like some things, not going to like some other things. And this spins the wheel. Misperception, attachment, and aversion, and the karma that's created around that. So there's also, when we talk about karma, there's a sense of good karma. Do some virtuous things, get some good karma. Do some non-virtuous things, some bad karma. All of it is so intertwined on given moments because there's so much is going on in a given moment. But if I understand that out of this, then I start liking some people, disliking some other people, and I start seeing people as, stick a label on them. They're like this, and that person's like that. And then I just start seeing them in that way. And what I'm really missing is that my seeds of joy and anger or irritation or pleasure are within me, the actual seed causes. And what's out there are secondary causes, or what we call conditions, that interact with my seeds, my karmic imprints. And so, again, same phenomena, Brussels sprouts, I have joy. Someone else, ooh, Brussels sprouts. It's not in the Brussels sprouts, right? There's an interaction between this phenomenon and my experience of it based on my karmic imprints. So if I start to recognize this is a very interdependent interaction, and that how I'm experiencing the Brussels sprouts or that person or these things has a lot to do with my own imprints, as well as the phenomena out there, that would be a little more accurate. But out of misperception, we don't see things that way. We don't see things as impermanent. We try to make things permanent. We make a lot of choices. We engage in a lot of activities out of this misperception. We're creating karma moment to moment to moment, body, speech, and mind. And we're making real this experience in a way that it doesn't exist. And so we keep spinning this wheel. And so understanding this as we get into the second seal, what we're going to understand is that how I'm experiencing anything in this condition, it's conditioned by karma existence. Well, it's polluted, it's not accurate, and it cannot ever provide me the lasting happiness I seek. Just can't do it. We call it dukkha, unsatisfactory. Its very nature is unsatisfactory. That's the groundwork. Everybody's clear, right? Nailed it. Okay, good. All right. Let's poke into the text here. All polluted phenomena are dukkha, unsatisfactory by nature. Okay, so now we know polluted phenomena is everything we're experiencing. It's all created out of karma. It's all conditioned. Polluted phenomena are those produced under the control of ignorance and its latencies, because all things in cyclic existence, including our body and mind, are polluted in this way. They are said to be dukkha, unsatisfactory by nature. Sometimes people translate dukkha as sort of suffering, but unsatisfactory by nature is a much better description. They are not capable of providing the enduring happiness and security we seek. So if you think about it, is there anything that can provide you the enduring happiness and security you seek? I was thinking about, Laura was telling me about her son and his little blankie. Man, blankies are pretty secure, right? Nurturing. And she said by the end, it was just this little shredded little blob that the kid was hanging on to, just this little tiny thing left. And hanging onto that thing. And, even blankies aren't going to last. And we think about it, we try to find stability, right? In instability, we, work out and exercise, you're still going to get old and die, right? We, no matter what we do, our bodies will age, friends will come and go, economic situations change. That thing that provided me joy, loses its luster, or we lose it, and we start noticing that there's really nothing that we can really pin down that's going to give us that lasting happiness we seek. Trying to think of something that might be close. I mean, cherry pie is pretty good. But, what the old saying is, 1 piece, delicious. 2 piece, not as delicious. 3 pieces, I'm in pain. So we start thinking about this world, and we keep trying to arrange it to make us happy. We try to make it stable. But we can have the house of our dreams and be miserable in that house of our dreams, right? We can be unhappy in there. We can be frustrated in there. We can have the career we've always wanted. We can have difficult days at work, good days at work, or the job may change, or we may lose, it may go away. There's just nothing out there that's going to provide that. As a matter of fact, often it's presented that when we're happy, it's just a cessation of our suffering. Well, that's a real heartwarming thought, huh? It's that, wow, I'm not in pain. It feels good. I'm not struggling right now. I'm not stressed right now. I'm not striving right now. I'm not doing all those things. Feel pretty good. And then there's stress, tension, anxiety. So, and when we're talking about unsatisfactoriness, it doesn't have to be some big bad thing. I mean, think about hypertension in your body. Think about just that maybe lack of sleep, or a little concern about what may or may not happen, or worry that we talk about, in agitation, impatience. I was impatient a little while ago. Or was like, you? Yeah. I was watching a video for this, this program, this course, and I got a limited time to do it. And they're talking, and I'm just like, speed it up. I'm just like, I want to get through this video so I can take the test. And I'm scooting the thing along, and I'm trying to decide, do I really need this? I could probably take the test. And so just even that, instead of being pleasantly calm and taking in the information, I want to get through this. I want to take the test. So right there, that's not lasting happiness. It's nothing major. So when you sit there and think about, when do you have this peace and lasting happiness? And how accustomed are we to not being peaceful? These talks are supposed to make you feel better, right? We'll get there, I hope. But when you really start to notice, wow, what are you in a state of just, peace and ease? So let's continue. How are the unsatisfactory circumstances in our lives related to our minds? The Sutra on the 10 Grounds, in the Sutra on the 10 Grounds, the Buddha said the 3 realms are only mind. Now, the Chittamatra school, they call it the mind-only school. They're a school different than the majority of lineages and different from the one that we typically follow as well. But you don't ever want to discount a different view. And so they have a view that says, they're called the mind-only school. And they would say that this means the external physical world that we perceive is nothing but a projection of our mind. Okay, so out there, there's a phenomenon that everything we're experiencing is only a projection of the mind. So something to explore. But this Madhyamaka school that we most follow, and certainly within the Tibetan school, the vast majority understands this statement differently, saying that it indicates there is no absolute independent creator and that the source of our experiences lies in our minds, our virtuous, non-virtuous, and neutral minds. So those are the 3 types of karma: virtuous, non-virtuous, and neutral. And the actions or karma that these mental states motivate. So to put that in perspective, that's what I was trying to say. We're within our own minds are the karmic seeds: neutral, virtuous, non-virtuous. And when I interact with phenomena, I'm going to experience that phenomena in relation to the mind that I have, the karma within that mind. Hence, I like Brussels sprouts. But you may not, because you have a different mind of karmic imprints, and unfortunately did not have the virtuous conditions to really receive the pleasure of Brussels sprouts in the way it can happen. So we'll notice this around people, right? Somebody likes somebody, and I don't like that people. Like, how could anyone even be around that person? Somebody else loves that person. So we're bringing our mind into this experience, and our mind, based on our karmic imprints, is going to, so karma typically ripens as pleasurable or unpleasurable or sort of neutral. So you'll notice there's some things you really don't care that much about, like rice pudding, not that big a deal, right? Oops, some people think it's a big deal. So, but there might be some things that, but other things, a lot of pleasure, other things really annoying. And so when I'm feeling annoyed, well, that's got a lot to do with my non-virtuous karmic imprints, an unpleasurable result. When it comes in contact with a trigger, a conditioning event that ripens it. So in this case, it's not saying that there's no phenomena out there. It's saying that how I experience the phenomena out there is from my side, interacting with the phenomena. So very different than there's just nothing out there. It's saying, yeah, I'm interacting with phenomena. All of you are phenomena to me, chair, so forth. And how I'm interacting with you and how I'm perceiving you and experiencing has a lot to do with the mind I'm bringing to it based on my karmic imprints. I always like the cat example. Like a cat, does not necessarily see this thing as a computer that I'm looking at, right? Same phenomenon. Cats have a very different experience than I'm having with it. Cats eat a lot of things I would not eat, and they have a very different experience than I do. Same phenomenon, right? Same phenomenon. So the cat karma is going to see this room very differently than I do, and won't have the same labels I do. Okay. From the Buddhist viewpoint, many universes exist simultaneously at different stages of development. Some are beginning while others are devolving. Before a particular universe begins, the potential for material substances exists in the form of space particles, right? So we have all these space particles. Stuff doesn't come from nowhere. There has to be space for it. Changing moment by moment, these space particles are not absolute or independent entities. So, how is the physical evolution of a universe related to sentient beings? Their mental states and their experiences of pain and pleasure, happiness and unhappiness. That's all a question. This is where karma comes in. Karma is intentional actions done by sentient beings. Intentional actions done by sentient beings. So we are sentient beings. Okay. And an intentional action. When we think about karma, there's an intention, there's a motive, there's a reason we do something. And that is going to be the biggest weight to anything that we do. So if I were to hit someone in anger, that would be this really heavy karma around harming, with intention and anger, versus I accidentally hit someone and feel bad about it. Same action, different intention. So it's really nice to know intentional actions done by sentient beings create karma. As the potencies remaining from these actions ripen, so these seeds of karma are in my conscious continuum, right? Well, as they ripen, they shape the evolution of the external world and condition our experiences in it. So how I'm experiencing you is the result of my karmic imprints. And it's shaping and the conditioning, I mean, I think Sam's a darn attractive man, Probably most of you have that karma too. And, but there might be someone who doesn't. I find that hard to imagine personally. But, it could happen. So this is the interaction that's taking place, and but everything out there looks very independent, and that's the way it is, right? That's the way it is. And we're not understanding that's just the way I'm experiencing it based on my conditioning. So we can really see that in, well, I mean, pretty much anything. Based on how I was raised, the imprints I've had, the conditioning I've had in my life, and where I grew up and the culture and so forth, I'm really going to experience the world very differently from someone of a different culture and the way that they grew up and the different experiences they had. And so we can kind of see it on that level, but if we go much deeper, the way that we can understand that is as I also change my karmic imprints, I will change my experience of phenomena. So, for example, if I start engaging in life with more loving kindness, more compassion, more virtue, different imprints are going to happen. If I have more patience with people that I find annoying, and I start treating them with kindness and patience, and and not feeding into the annoying. What may happen is over time, I don't have very many annoying people in my life. And no one changed. Except me. Well, everybody's changing all the time, but you get my point. Yes, Sam.
So, karma being the intentional actions done by sentient beings, that are ourself, our own intentional actions, or can other persons, or other sentient beings' intentional actions affect our karma also?
Okay, so hopefully all of you online heard that. Sam said, can other people's, other sentient beings, their actions affect our karma? Is that what you're saying? So I'd say yes and no. Yeah, like to be clear about these things. There is a very unique stream of consciousness that's yours, that has your karmic imprints, that has within that store of consciousness karma created from your intentional activities. However, this whole world we're experiencing is shaped through all of our karmas. So the room that we're living in, the room that we're in the moment, once the school and so forth, this is shaped by all of our karmas, right? The environment that we live in. If I get hit by someone in a car, well, is that just my karma? No, it was the karma of the person who was driving the other cars. The karmas that kind of came as a result of people who built the car and designed the car, the streets, the things are going on. So there are multiple layers of karma giving rise to this phenomenon experience, and we're all interacting with each in an interdependent way, right? Interdependent. So other people's karma is certainly going to have an impact on our lives and how we see things, and will have an impact even on how our attitudes are shaped, right? And when we think about just the environments, the people we've been around, how they've impacted how we see the world. So they're going to have a huge impact on, first off, the world, the phenomenon that we're experiencing, how we experience is going to be primarily ours, but it's going to be influenced and impacted. And then we're in right now, we're in a karmic group right now, everyone who's in this teaching. So collectively, we're creating a karma together, this unit. There's be a unit of karma of Carbondale itself, the town I'm in, or the town that all of you are in, wherever you're at. So collectively, groups and interactions, there's these other layers of karma. There's the karma of the United States. There's the karma, of different countries and so forth, that all give rise to this experience as well. So we're all going to have an impact, and it's all going to have an influence on the outer phenomenon as well as how I experience it. But on the other side, your intentional activities and your karma is always going to be yours, and that's the continuum piece. So we can't blame someone else if that's what you're looking at. Darn, it's not my mom's fault after all. Yeah. But they did have an impact. It's kind of like, I'm sure you guys probably heard the saying, is, our family knows how to push our buttons, because they installed them, right? And that's not entirely accurate. I have my own imprints, but they certainly helped shape where they're located. Right, that kind of thing. So, there's that interaction, right? The strong karmic connections between people and relatives and our intimate circles. So, sentient beings create karma physically, verbally, and mentally. Body, speech, and mind. What we think, say, and do. As a matter of fact, sometimes I'll even talk about karma as any movement of the mind, the mind, thoughts and things and images. And it's just ongoing. It's like a tape recorder. Our motivation is principle, right? So it's the motivation that is the primary factor, for it fuels our physical and verbal actions. Destructive actions are motivated by afflictions, such as attachment, anger, and confusion, which in turn are polluted by and rooted in ignorance. So again, ignorance is always going to be the core issue of all of this. An erroneous belief in inherent existence. So that's the definition they're giving to this misperception, that we exist inherently from our own side, independently, as though I didn't need any parents or oxygen or others or anything, right? Independent, self-existent. Even when sentient beings act with kindness, the karma they create is still polluted by ignorance, grasping inherent existence. So the point being made here, well, let me go to the next sentence. So whether the actions are constructive or destructive, they produce rebirth in cyclic existence. Because unawakened cyclic existence is a product of the undisciplined mind, it is said to be dukkha, unsatisfactory by nature. Secure peace and happiness cannot come from ignorance. For this reason, the second seal of Buddhism is that all polluted phenomena are in the nature of dukkha. Everybody got that, right? So the point being that out of misperception, out of me still seeing myself as independent and seeing you as someone who has given me joy or given me a pain in the neck, that's this sort of inherent. I reify you and I reify me and I reify the event. And out of that misperception, that inherent existence, I might do some really virtuous things. I like people. I want to serve the homeless. I'm going to do these virtuous things. And a lot of good karma will be created. It's wonderful. But it's still tainted by misperception. So it's still going to give rise to this continual state of rebirth. And even those activities are not going to provide us the lasting happiness we seek. Obviously, the destructive things that we do based out of anger and attachment and these destructive mental states that we can do and hurt people and do things out of spite is going to create karma as well. It's going to be pretty unpleasant. But whether it's good karma or this negative karma, they're all in conditioned existence because it's all arising from a belief in inherent existence of this independent self and the way I'm experiencing that world. And anything produced, anything we're experiencing in this conditioned state, that's the way I like to think of it, as conditioned, right? It's conditioned by karma. Then can't really provide us that lasting happiness. It's all going to be unsatisfactory. So that's ultimately the second seal, is stating that's, basically the first noble truth, the truth of suffering, the truth of dukkha. We're all going to get old, sick, and die. Well, everyone, we know is going to do the same. The treasures in our life, that we really hold on to won't always bring us what we want. Sometimes bring us quite a bit of suffering. And our striving to get the world to be the way we want it is really a core root in our dissatisfaction, right? We think about stress and underlying stress and tension and so forth. It's really I want the world to be different. I want this to happen. I don't want that to happen. I'm concerned about so and so. I really want. And so there's a belief system there that these things are independent and separate and go this way or that way. And it'll be good if it goes this way and not good if it goes that way. Now, if we didn't have any of that, you're not going to be stressed. But you're going to notice that there's that tricky little thing, the mind's going, oh, what's this, what's that? So this is really bringing us to that first noble truth, which I think he's going to, this might be a good place. Yeah, let me just pause there and see if anyone has any thoughts or questions there. Does it make any sense?
One thing that I'm kind of struggling with is the sentence, and if you could go maybe back to the last couple of paragraphs, I can pick it out.
Okay, you want me to pop it up? Okay.
Yeah. There's something to do with, let's see, or whether the actions are, whoops, where'd that,
That was intentional actions, is that what?
whether the actions are constructive or destructive, they contribute to the cyclic existence. Is that kind of
Yeah.
paraphrasing?
Yeah, that's what I was just trying to explain.
Yeah. It could produce rebirth and cyclic existence. So I guess I was kind of under the impression that the more constructive actions we have, the less that's the way out of cyclic existence.
It's helpful. So, for example, the only way out of cyclic existence is wisdom, right? It's to see things accurately. That's all. I mean, all of this is trying to get us there. And the only way that we're going to create the conditions, the environment to have that wisdom is through merit, right? This good karmic activities, these virtuous activities.
Right.
So the good, wholesome activities of body, speech, and mind, or the spiritual merit that we develop, create the environments that are conducive to engage in the insight practices of wisdom, to glean wisdom, to be around good teachers, to have conditions ripen. So, for example, right here in a Dharma teaching, we would say that you have a rare and precious human birth, favorable to Dharma practice, and very few humans have such conditions ripen. And those are only ripened through virtue, through your you creating these causes and conditions for you to be here. So good virtuous actions, good karma, create the conditions, the environment, and the capacity to engage in enlightened the insight practices and gain some realization. But the good karma alone won't do it.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. But the wisdom, like you meditate all day on for years on non-dual, the wisdom experience, the insight practices, but without good karma and merit, you're just not going to get very far. So we need to ripen our minds. That's the fertilizer for wisdom, is virtue. And this bodhicitta, this great compassion, we have the best fertilizer for us to have clarity and insight, understand. Let's see if we can poke through just the rest of the section. The first noble truth, the truth of dukkha, consists of two factors, those in the external environment, such as our environment, tables and oceans. So there is, in this context, an external environment of phenomena. And those internal to sentient beings. So our bodies and minds. So there is external in this sense and internal. Within the latter, the feeling aggregate, the primary consciousness and mental factors that accompany them, and the cognitive faculties that cause these consciousnesses are all unsatisfactory by nature. Both the external and internal objects are true dukkha because they come into being due to polluted karma and afflictions of ordinary beings. In other words, that's what we've just been saying. It's just reiterating that the first noble truth is just aligns with this, that out of my misunderstanding, whether I'm doing something positive or negative, it's still always contaminated by misperception. And this external experience created by all these karmic forces of all of these beings, as well as my internal experience of them. But here's the main point. Once someone has eliminated afflictions and karma, that's good, but she becomes an arhat. Someone liberated from cyclic existence, right? So essentially, once we've eliminated our afflictions and karma, we're free of all this, right? It's not so much about the environment, it's about our mind. Even so, she may continue to live in the external world, just right next to us, which is dukkha, but won't experience it that way at all. In other words, the criterion for being in cyclic existence is not the environment in which the person lives, but her state of mind. So same place, same phenomena. If I was an arhat, I wouldn't be experiencing this as dukkha, even though I'm hanging out with you. So this is the part that sometimes people miss, is that samsara, this conditioned cyclic existence, is not a different place than nirvana. The only thing that's different is my mind. Hence, it's an inside job. And it's interesting because that's where, sometimes you'll hear about, these lamas who, just do things that are abnormal, like Lama Yeshe, Lama Zopa Rinpoche was, well known to not sleep ever. So you think about decades of not sleeping, and you sit there and think, I would need some sleep, but he didn't. And these experiences that they have, they're in a physical body, they're in the same world we are, but they're not operating by the same rules. There's a great fun story. Alan Wallace, Lama Alan, who tells this. There's this yogi, they have these yogis who are not monks, right? They're yogis. They're often highly realized beings, and this yogi, and sometimes they can be a little wild, and they just operate on a different level. And some monks were kind of lecturing him on his behavior. I think it's a bad example for the monks to see a yogi act like that. I don't know, maybe he's drinking beer or something. I can't remember. But the yogi was like, oh, okay, so you guys are telling me how, I should be. That's very helpful. And then he took his cup, and in India and in the Himalayas, they have these gutters, where like all the sewage goes down and all this stuff, pretty not pleasant. And he just sticks his little cup down there, takes it, has a little drink from it. That was really good. He goes, would you care to have a drink? In other words, in his mind, there's no difference whatsoever between, that swill and radiant nectar. It's just phenomenon. And he can drink one or the other. It's no difference. It's all one taste. And the point the other monk said, never mind, we won't tell you how to be, because they don't have a mind that can see that. So these people in human form, I actually saw my teacher in that way as well. They just operate on a different level, even though they're in a physical body in the same place we are. But they're not suffering like we are, and they don't experience the things the way we do. All right, well, any thoughts, questions, comments? Anybody got a good Buddhist joke?
No joke. That last story about the yogi, but I could. It seems that the yogi would want to be mindful of the image he's presenting.
That's what the monks thought.
Because it's for ordinary beings to see somebody that is said to be realized acting in a way that they don't understand. I've had that experience, and it's
right.
It's difficult to know how to manage that.
Yeah, and there's actually a lot of damage done, in this particular case with an actual realized yogi. He could see much more than we can see, so who knows what was going on. But what's very common is these people with a crazy wisdom practice, or crazy wisdom, and they'll say,
yeah, exactly.
And the problem is there's a lot of wisdom. There's just a lot of crazy. And so when you do not have the actual awakened state to know the impact and to do these things, and we act in this crazy wisdom way, a lot of damage. And, that's been prevalent throughout a lot of Dharma centers. And it's done a great deal of harm in acting in ways that are counter to our normal virtuous behavior, and so you'll see a lot of controversy around that, and a lot of damage done to people. And so always be very cautious of that ideal. Sometimes people will, they'll talk about so-and-so, this teacher, that teacher, and they have these behaviors. And they'll say, yeah, but he's a realized person, or he's this or that, and they're beyond those things. And my belief, my thought, is that worth the gamble? When there's enough teachers who are acting in virtue, who have subdued their mind and are not controversial, and who are ethical, that are also realized. So for me, I just I figure, there's why make a risky choice when there's so many great role models that I can lean into. Whereas there could be some crazy yogis, and they do exist, that are wholesome, and they just do things you don't understand. But that's a small portion, and there's quite a few who are not as wise and just a little bit more crazy. So that's why, we talked a few weeks ago, about qualities of a teacher. And, there's a list of these 10 qualities. And they say in our lifetime, if we could find someone with just, 5 of them, some key 5 ones, that would be great. But fundamental to all of them is, have they subdued their mind? Do they act in an ethical way? And, to me, that's a pretty foundational thing. I would like to, have a teacher that has a pretty ethical lifestyle and acts and has subdued their mind. And so there's these qualities that we can use. And it's really nice to reflect on that. And does this teacher, do they really have your best interest at heart? Or, do they want you to help them have their teaching career or whatever? So there's these things that, we gauge with teachers, and it's really good to be discerning about who we're learning from and whether or not we don't like to follow those teachings. So, yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Carla. There's a lot of damage that can be done and has been done through people that aren't quite that realized but believe they are, and have acted in ways very contrary to how we should treat each other.
Hi, John.
Hi.
I'm just thinking about my own personal takeaway from this talk, and I think what I hear, and I'm sort of asking too at the same time, is that for where I'm at on this path, and I've heard you say it many times, but this talk brings more meaning and depth to it for me, is because even virtuous thoughts and creating and virtuous action is still coming from this misperception. It's not in the purest form it could be if I had true, enlightened, accurate perception. And the way to prepare for that deeper wisdom, that higher wisdom, I guess, is to just continue in cultivating virtuous action, virtuous thought, cultivating attention to keep my mind and my actions aligned with that, and just keep moving forward that way at this point.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've talked a few times about, when I first started going to the Dharma Center in Long Beach with my teacher, they're talking about the nature of emptiness, things that we're talking about, that, phenomenon, emptiness and the interdependence. And I'm like, no, man, this isn't the way. What? This is a freaking table. That's not non-dual. That's a table, and I'm John. And, I just thought, man, I'm not going to get that. But I can be a better person. And so, I thought, I'm not going to be like those folks. I can learn how to be a better person. And so I was just going to focus on the compassion, the virtue, and just what you said, exactly the way you're saying it, Keith, is I just started focusing on that. And what happened is, years later, things that made absolutely no sense to me have clarity in my mind. So it's like cleaning the windshield, right, of our experience. And there's all these obscurations, and it prevents me from understanding myself and my experience. But that virtuous karma and purification practices just clear the windshield, and I start seeing things in more clarity and more vividly and have more understanding around them. And so, back to what, Carla was asking about the virtue, and as you're stating, is if we keep just doing our best, as you said, to be mindful, to come from virtue, to have a good motivation, that's going to give us a very different experience and the capacity to have that wisdom and have less grasping onto ourselves. It's going to soften those lines and allow for that wisdom to manifest better.
Well, just what you described too, John. I can see that in my own journey so far. After a few years of meditation and Dharma, and I can notice more clarity on certain things dawning on me as it goes. So I guess what I'm saying is I can relate to that process personally because I'm experiencing it to a degree myself.
Yeah, you and me both, right? So, and so that is really the journey is, the foundation is ethical behavior. The foundation is virtue. And in order to engage in virtue, we need to be mindful. So really start noticing our motives. What is our intention? Why are we doing and saying this or that? And as we increase that mindfulness, we can engage in more virtue. And that lays the foundation for all spiritual growth. That's why it's, as Carlos pointed out, it's kind of antithetical to see someone acting in sort of a non-virtuous way and think that that's all right. So I think, Carla, I got a lesson from you. And the lesson is next time I want to make the point about a yogi can tell the difference, can drink, that sewer water or radiant nectar. I don't need to bring up the story about why, right? I could just say, for example, if someone was a yogi, if they drank from this or drank from that, they'd have experience. Except it's a true story. I'll work on that.
Well,
Yeah.
it occurred to me that that Yogi knew the two monks in front of him needed that lesson, needed to
Right.
see that. So he was teaching it to he was approaching them at the level that they needed to be taught at by showing them that particular lesson.
Well put. Well put. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, this was a rich discussion. We're going to, I think, wrap up and dedicate. Next week, we'll get into the third seal. All right, well, let's go ahead and dedicate the merit that we have cultivated from our time together. Taking just a moment to reflect upon the conditions that have ripened for us to engage with each other and with these teachings, with virtue. And let us dedicate any and all merit that we have cultivated for the benefit of all sentient beings, that they may be free of suffering and for our own continued spiritual growth, so we can be of ultimate benefit. And let us dedicate. By this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. All right. Well, thank you all so much. Such a joy to be with all of you one more time. And I look forward to our next opportunity.
Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha.